My father was Jack Sexton, quite a prominent landscaper at the moment. We were building gardens at Chelsea from the 80s right the way through, and one year I hurt my back and my father said to me, "We know that Pulham is a family name, because a long time ago my grandfather told me that my great-great-grandfather was called Michelangelo Pulham. That's about all we knew." So my father said to me, "Take 2 weeks off work and start researching the family history." So I typed in Pulham, or Michelangelo Pulham actually, straight into the computer, and immediately I got the name Claude Hitching. So I phoned Claude up and I said to him that I was a descendant of Michelangelo Pulham, and to cut a long story short, Claude and I have now been very good friends, and we've gone all around the country looking at Pulham gardens, and I'm absolutely amazed to find out that I've got very prominent, eminent family ancestors that we didn't know anything about. And the most strange thing is that we're carrying on with the same interest. My father and I and my brother were building gardens at Chelsea from 1981 onwards, many rock gardens, and then we find out from our research that 100 years prior to that, the Pulhams were building gardens on the very same spot. Claude Hitching wrote this book. He found out from old photographs in his collection that his grandfather and his great uncle were both rock builders for the Pulhams. So he decided to go to Lowood Museum and he asked them if they could tell him anything about the Pulhams. And they said, "Well, we've got a little bit of information, but there's not much." Well, they were such a prominent firm for this area. We need somebody to collate all the information and actually write a book. And Claude had just retired. He lives in Welwyn Garden City, which is very close to me as well. And he spent the next few years, quite a few years actually, travelling the countryside, discovering and viewing Pulham gardens, and he's done a remarkable job. We now consider him the country's expert on Pulhamites. Imagine there's a big umbrella that the word Pulhamite will come underneath. It goes from the terracotta urns almost, so they regarded those as Pulhamite as well, and also the rockwork, the artificial rockwork that they produced. They used to build just a lump of bricks really, put down in situ, and then cover them with a cement render like that, so you can see that attached to the brick, and then over the top of that they would have put the surface of the rock that they were intending. And the surface of the rock wasn't just cement on, they would have carved it, shaped it, and then put a texture in with a brush or a piece of sacking or a comb or something, rubbed it over the top just to give it that sort of millstone grit texture that they're after. We're in the gardens of Danesfield House at the moment, near Marlow-on-Thames. The Pulhams were brought in a century ago to landscape these gardens. They created a beautiful terrace looking out over the Thames and a rocky valley behind me. And even the seat that I'm sitting on is a Pulham seat. Most of the Pulham rocks that you see today are over 100 years old. A lot of them, as you see around Danesfield, are actually in still quite good condition. However, even at Danesfield, there is a lot that's breaking up. They had planting pockets, and I think squirrels use those planting pockets to plant walnuts and acorns, etc., and sycamore trees have self-seeded, and it's the roots that break it up. So that's one thing that happens. The other thing is the weather. If any water gets into a crack, then when the winter comes, the ice just freezes it and it blows. However, a lot of the rocks have been buried by leaf mould and silt, etc., and funnily enough, they have been quite well preserved. When it was in situ, it was really reserved for the upper classes and people to show off their alpine plants, etc. The general public never got to see it. Now there are so many people that are interested in garden history, beautiful gardens, etc., that so many more people are getting on board, which is just wonderful. So it's just amazing. It's all thanks to Claude Hitching and his research.